I've recently discovered a term that I believe truly encapsulates the main ideas I've been most heavily espousing as of late: interdependence. Now, interdependence in its most basic and nebulous form is to be dependent on things external to yourself. In this case, I mean to refer to the dependence we humans have on each other. We depend on others our entire lives, whether it be our parents raising us, friends to confide in, or everybody else working to uphold our community, country, and indeed the global society. There is no one who has not climbed up on the back of another, especially not in regards to money in our first world society. To me, this is the single term that best conveys the fact that we are all one family, and our struggles to survive are shared and affected by all. Though this is almost the utter antithesis of the dogmatic American ideology surrounding self-determination. It does not, however, exalt the idea of communal values. It goes a step further. It denotes 1, their necessitation, and 2, their utter ubiquity. This alone speaks to the importance of looking past our superficial differences, both aesthetic and conceptual, and obligates us to consider the inherent effects we have on others. We should be more cognizant of how far-reaching the cumulative effects of our decisions are. To affect others positively causes a ripple effect of positivity among those with whom we come into contact, whether a stranger to whom you pay a small smile, or a friend who is consistently made happier by your influence. And this same principle applies on a global scale. Local decisions have an effect on the larger global community, so our local decisions should be made with that in mind. No matter if we choose to buy goods from a certain country, institute a blockade, or remain completely neutral towards them, there's always an effect. Remember that our borders are merely arbitrary lines drawn on a map. The effects of one country's decisions bleed over into others irrespective of our divisions. This cannot be denied. For example, it cannot reasonably be denied that America's current war on drugs is directly empowering the cartels that now control much of Mexico. And in the same way that these borders are arbitrary, so too are the divisions that we choose to propagate between ourselves and all of those people. Take your pick on the group. No man is an island. Similarly, no nation truly operates in isolation. To relate this to current issues, universal health care is predicated on our interdependence. So too are the tax dollars which fund our public schools, which are having their funding slashed across the board. The fact is, however, that a happy, healthy, well-educated society is a desirable thing. I should think this is obvious. But the preservation of our society requires money to be given to the government by way of our taxes. This is also undeniable. The government must be funded for there to be an America at all. It is, after all, a government entity at its core. With funding, it can provide for the defense of the nation, preservation of infrastructure, and the regulation of disputes within the nation. Also, without that funding, we would have no police, firemen, or rescue workers. Would anyone want those services to not be freely available to all? Without funding, it can't do any of these things, and we would all suffer without that aid. It's basically a modernized version of our naturally occurring instincts, dating all the way back to the most primitive of social groupings. So, of course, health should be considered on par with such aid. Some individualists, however, might ask why they should pay for the health of others when they themselves are healthy. Yet these same people never seem to question why they pay taxes to upkeep roadways that they will never use, or to process and purify water which they will never drink. For a society to aspire to a healthy and well-educated population is, however, indirectly to the great benefit and prosperity of everyone within that society. So, in response to such individualists, as Rousseau once put it, man is born free, but everywhere he is in chains. Only the savage are truly free. To live in a society is a decision that forces us to forego any natural freedoms. By definition, to be part of a society is to be governed by it. After all, even the very rich make their money due to the resources and infrastructure that society, in the form of the government, has built up. No person made their money without these things, which were provided by the government through the use of tax dollars. Furthermore, it is due to the workers who labor for them that they make their money. Even if they're stockbrokers or investors, it is the work of the masses that fuels their endeavors. To deny that they owe something to those who made their success possible is to be arrogant and self-important. Peoples throughout history have not chosen to band together in order to further their personal liberties. Since time immemorial, they have chosen to forego the greater freedoms of solitude in favor of benefiting from the common efforts of a greater good. In any society, the pursuit of freedom is an abstract illusion, an easy sell of a dream of a promised land. The American dream, if you will. An ultimately hollow and naive fantasy best left discarded. To you individualists, if you want to improve the world, stop wasting your energy on some spectral ideal of freedom and start focusing more on how you're being ruled. It is because of this that each of us shares a responsibility for our peers. If you're sick and you come into contact with someone who isn't, they'll get sick too. If a nation educates its children well, many people may benefit by their education across a whole gamut of potential careers those children may pursue. And so if you look at things in that way, it makes a lot of sense. It's so obvious that it should be common sense. Understanding our differences, properly prioritizing them, and recognizing that we as human beings are all one family is essential to helping each other grow and better ourselves. Again, on both a global and individual level. We cannot, or rather should not, squabble over our petty competing interests if we want to have any form of peace on any level. Empathy, understanding, and recognition of our interdependent relationships must be emphasized on all levels. It creates a cycle of love as opposed to a cycle of hatred. And so, we must take responsibility by empathizing with and understanding others in order to live in peace. If we refuse, we must take responsibility for the war and chaos we ourselves allow. Long days and pleasant nights. I've recently discovered shit. That's what I've discovered. And in the same way these borders are arbitrary, so too are you know? That society, oh, it's a real video now.